The air grew heavy and still, the scent of damp earth and late-blooming jasmine clinging to the twilight. The old woman, Ice, sat hunched over her small fire, the flames licking at the one iron pot. Inside, the last of the day's lentils softened, but her thoughts were on something else entirely. She had just finished peeling an onion, its peppery skin now a crumpled pile beside her. She knew the stories, everyone in her Anatolian village did. You never threw away the onion skins. They belonged to the Djinn, their strange, ethereal currency. But tonight, her grandson, Omet, was late. Omet, a boy with mischief in his eyes and a spirit wild as a mountain goat, had promised to be home before sunset. Now, the stars were beginning to prick the inky sky. Ice felt the familiar knot of dread tighten in her stomach. She thought of the whispered tales of children lost to the hollows of the woods, lured by unseen music and the promise of magical treats. Just then, a sound drifted on the breeze, a faint, distant melody, like a single zither string being plucked. It was followed by a soft, rhythmic drumming, a bit too fast and joyful for any human gathering. The sound was coming from the direction of the old grove, where the twisted oak trees grew so close together their branches formed a canopy that blocked out the sky. Panic seized Ice. She grabbed her worn shawl and hobbled toward the woods, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She called out Omet's name, her voice trembling. "Omet, where are you?" The music grew louder, a wild and joyous tune that made the hairs on her arms stand up. Ice pushed through the dense undergrowth, the air growing colder with every step. She saw it then, not a human wedding, but something far more terrifying. A shimmering, translucent procession moved through the trees. They were creatures of smoke and fire, their forms shifting like heat haze above a summer road. They danced, their movements fluid and unnatural, and their faces, if they could be called faces, were only blurs of light. And in the very center of their circle, a figure stood alone, still as a statue. It was Omet. He was swaying to the music, his eyes wide and vacant. His hands were clasped around a handful of something shiny and gold, which he was tossing into the air like confetti. Ice recognized it with a gasp that tore from her throat. It was the pile of onion skins she had left on the ground. The Djinn were feasting and celebrating, and they had invited her grandson to their eerie wedding feast, their gift to him the very things he had discarded. Ice knew she had to break the spell. She remembered an old warding charm her mother had taught her. It was a simple rhyme, a plea to the ancient earth spirits. She began to chant, her voice low and desperate. The music faltered. The shimmering forms of the Djinn turned their glowing, eyeless gazes toward her. A collective hiss rose from their midst, like steam escaping a pressure valve. One of the figures detached from the group and glided toward her, its form solidifying just enough for her to see a malevolent grin. Ice didn't stop chanting. She moved closer, the cold emanating from the Djinn chilling her to the bone. She repeated the final line of the rhyme, "May the earth hold what the air cannot." As she spoke, she threw a handful of dry dirt at the Djinn's feet. The earth, it was said, was the only thing that could truly anchor the spirits of smokeless fire. The creature recoiled with a shriek of rage, its form flickering and dissolving like a flame blown out by a gust of wind. The other Djinn followed, their wedding procession dissipating into the night air as the music faded to nothing more than a memory. Omet stumbled forward, blinking as if waking from a dream. He looked at the crumpled onion skin still clutched in his hand and then at the horrified, tear-streaked face of his grandmother. He had no memory of the music or the dancing creatures. He only knew he had been drawn to the forest by a strange feeling, a pull he couldn't resist. Ice embraced him, holding him tight, the relief so overwhelming she could barely breathe. Back at their small home, the lentil soup had grown cold. Ice held her grandson close and spoke of the danger they had faced. She showed him the pile of onion skins and told him the story, not as a myth, but as a warning. And from that day on, Omet never again threw a single onion skin on the ground. He would carefully gather them and place them in the fire, offering them back to the realm of the unseen, a silent tribute to the night he almost danced away forever.